This is one of my tree guilds. This is a dwarf apple tree, another dwarf apple tree, and an Evans Bali cherry. Each one around the perimeter of the drip line has onions. Later on this year I'll add garlic. They're only doing so-so right now, but these are Arctic raspberries. They die off every year back to the ground and regrow. They only get about 18 to 24 inches tall. We already have one apple on this one. There was one on this one, but the 60-70 mile an hour winds we had recently blew it off, and it's set up the same way. The cherry wasn't doing well for a while because the boys kept eating it, rubbing up against it and all that. And since I put up a different type of fencing, they've never gotten over to here. So it's doing much better this year. Right there, you can see the charger for the electric fence. It's a solar charger, so I can literally put it anywhere, ground rod. This is the temporary electric mesh that it electrifies. It's really good at following contours and whatnot. It's kind of hard to see there in the background. I can tell you from experience that if you're sitting on the damp ground and you use the back of your hand to test it because you can't read the output of the tester, just with butt cheek squeezing alone you can launch yourself back about 3 feet. I'll end up moving this probably middle of next week so that they can graze up through here. Everybody always gets real excited when I come in. They seem to have me associated with food and water and treats and all that. This one right here is my ewe lamb Kappa. She's the only female. This one is my ram lamb Ding Dong. He's the only intact male. This one is one of Ruth's sheep. I call it Chislic. I don't know what she calls it. I renamed all her animals. I don't remember their names. I make up my own. And this one's Naughty Chislic. He was the one that was escaping for a while, and I'd literally find him inside the feeder. And then there's Snowball and Snowflake and Space Ghost, and off in the distance there's Drizzle. He's a weather. And Gordon and Flybait doing his thing, and Bucktooth. You can probably guess what his name is oriented around. And these are some of my cows. Just kidding. I don't have cows, these are the neighbor's cows. And here's the first chicken tractor I did. This one has the feed bucket inside, roof, a little bit of additional shelter. This is part of the mechanism for moving it. This is a trailer dolly, and it lifts up this portion and you can drag the whole thing across. On this particular one I used a PVC pipe with horizontal chicken nipples for the watering. I'll show you what the nipples look like in the regular coop. It's a little easier to see than in here. Here's Drizzle. He's polycerate. I don't know if you can see, but he has 4 horns, and he's camera shy. The horns on the other ones are nice and curled. They make really good handles. His slide out of your hand. Hardwire meshing. Chicken wire is useless. Something, a raccoon, a dog, or something would have torn through by now. They're all used to me moving the chicken tractor, and any little bit of corn that's left over, they like to clean up for me. And so I usually get followed by the sheep every time I do this. On the other end, I have these for wheels. These are, get out of the way, Ding Dong. These are never go flat, they're solid. I've used inflatable, but they go flat. And the purpose behind this is it's flat on the ground. I have different height measurements. I can do it just a little bit, or I can actually lift it about 8 inches off the ground. You can see the gap underneath, and then I'll pop another bar through here to lock it into place when I move it. And then when it's in place, I lower it back down. And what I'll do is I'll pull these off and I'll take it to the other chicken tractor for when I move it. This is kind of a second version. The first version had holes in the frame itself. This one I attached it to the outside. I used steel tube on this because we throw literally tons of this back into the recycling bin every month. And so I snagged a little bit of it. Wood would work just as well, just wouldn't last as long. And here's a few of the broilers. These are Red Ranger broilers. It's actually a derivative of a French breed. They don't grow as fast as the regular white broilers that most stores use, but they do grow faster than heritage breeds. And you can kind of see through here, this was the patch that I just vacated yesterday and a couple days before, and it starts blending in, especially with the other grazing animals, but normally you can see about 4 days difference from where they have been. If I left this here long enough, they would totally sterilize their pen and there wouldn't be a single bit of vegetation left. These are 4 of my elderberries. You can see this one is going to be producing a decent amount this year. I believe this is the 3rd year I've had them in. And the fence just on the other side of this keeps everybody nicely contained. And growing nicely, but not as quickly as the elderberries, are my row of cranberries. I kind of planted this before I started planting as I do now. Probably would have done it a little differently. And so what I'm going to add to this is there's going to be additional plants in between. Kind of like there was in the Tree Guild. I'll probably add some pixie grapes and maybe some strawberries and a couple different layers. I already know by digging around in the mulch when I'm weeding that there's quite the network of mycelium for fungus and mushrooms already, and I found a few mushrooms. I'm not quite sure what kind they are. This is my original coop. It is now called the Love Shack. That's where I put breeding pairs in so I can collect eggs to hatch out more. Right now I have 4 ducks in there. They're not too fond of people. One of the ladies at work last year got chickens for her kids for Easter, and I got those afterwards. And before she got these, she asked me if I'd take these, so I ended up with ducks. Here are 2 of our guineas. Our numbers fluctuate more down than up due to coyotes or fox or whatever happens to end up eating these guys. I have 4 of them currently in the brooder, 3 more eggs in the incubator. It's possible that before I leave today I'll be pulling out 1 more and putting it in the brooder. And this is the front of the coop. You can probably guess which side is the boys' side. This is the boys' side. Also affectionately known as the meat side. These are the 2 roosters that I kept. All the other ones are currently in the freezer, along with the ducks that I had on this side. These are the horizontal nipple waterers that I use. I can put a heater in this and it'll actually still work in the wintertime. And they peck and they get their water. The water stays clean. Nobody asked you. Water stays clean and they waste a heck of a lot less. This is their feeder. And if I totally fill it up, well, when there was 8 birds in here, it would last a week and a half to 2 weeks. I also have, let's see if I can get them, finches that have taken up residence inside. Ow! This guy might be going to the freezer. A little aggressive. That's part of the whole dominance thing. And so this is kind of their run portion. I do deep litter here. Every time I mow, I throw in a bag of grass. They pick through it and it helps keep the smell down. These are their roosts. I open this up in the summertime for ventilation. In the wintertime I close it. You can still see there are gaps. There's no issues with ventilation here. And that leads to the other half. This is the girl side, also known as the egg side. We also get the grass. My one remaining duck from the original group. She doesn't lay very well anymore, so I'll probably cull her from the flock later on. And they have the same water setup. They have the same food setup, but they also have a spot for calcium, and that'll be either crushed up eggshells or oyster. The white ones were the one that I got from the lady at work. There's 3 of them. They're really, really, really flighty. They are smaller birds, but they are what commercial eggeries use to produce their eggs. Deep litter method in here too. Perches. Open in the summer. There's one of the finches for ventilation. There's plenty of ventilation all the time through there. Old feed bags. And right now it looks like all the nesting boxes are being occupied. Well, that one just vacated. Through here is where I keep all the feed. There's corn in there, eggshell, and black oil sunflower. I'll be playing around with the ratio of feed because I don't think they're getting quite enough protein right now. And the side of the coop. This is my original grape. It was doing really well, and then one of the animals somehow broke it off this year. I don't know if it was the rabbits or the guineas or whatnot. I have a green mulch going here with some rather invasive strawberries. You can see a lot of droppings. The guineas like to nest or roost on this top bar at night. This is a volunteer grape. I'm going to let it just grow normally this year, and when it goes dormant, I'm going to trim it back to make more cuttings. Not exactly sure how it got there. The leaves are a little different from the other ones, so it's entirely possible it is a different grape than what I have, which means it would have to be a volunteer seed from a bird that ate a grape. Along through here is one of the hardy kiwi. That one's a female, and the male, and a really pathetic female right now. This one's not doing very good. I have 3 cucumbers along here. One over there next to the sunflower. One right there. This one was shaded out by this grape until about 2 days ago. scattered throughout, I have borage. Has a nice cucumbery taste to the leaves. It's a nice addition to the salad. This was one of the broken grape vines that I found one day, so I just shoved it in the ground. I think it actually rooted. This is a pixie grape. It only gets about 18 inches tall. Can actually be grown in containers. Little itty bitty grapes. Needs weeding, but I have onions along the border of this one too. More borage. More borage. Also called starflower. Another pixie grape. Pixie grape. This was a volunteer sunflower, so we just left it. These are the gardens. It's with a much more permaculture concept in mind than it was before. No longer am I going to have, for instance, a row of Brussels sprouts, a row of tomatoes. Everything is scattered around. So for instance, on this one, there's marigolds, borage. Oh, I think that's broccoli. Ahi lemon. There's a sunflower, corn, marigold, corn, nasturtium, marigold, borage. Either broccoli or, yeah, that one's broccoli. Spaghetti squash, another marigold, corn, nasturtium, corn, marigold, weed, grass of some kind. Corn, sunflower, looks like sweet cayenne, another broccoli, sweet potatoes, marigold, borage, marigold, Brussels sprouts, corn, and just all around. And this one has basil, and this is a melon of some kind. I didn't label the seeds, and I didn't know if they were ones that I had actually dried and seasoned, and so I planted them not knowing if they would grow or not. It's either going to be butternut squash or pumpkin. And there's a pepper and more borage and another brassica and so on and so forth. So they're kind of scattered all over the place in a random fashion. And there's a nasturtium that's blooming. Everything in these gardens is edible. There's some kale. The nasturtiums are in there for that. The borages. Evidently marigolds are edible too, but I haven't tried it because I don't know based on the smell if I'd like the taste. This is a new garden. I was trying it slightly different with no-till. I have a few weeds I need to pull out. Pepper, nasturtium, pepper. More spaghetti squash. Dill on this one. And this one's pretty much the same. What I find interesting is this particular hill is the same mystery squash as this hill. This one was planted in the ground about 3 weeks prior to me putting seeds in the aquaponics setup. And this one is already doing really well, all things considered. And kale, another spaghetti squash, more peppers, more borage with a lot more blooms, sunflower, a few weeds here and there. I haven't gotten out this week to do a lot of weeding in the gardens. This one is pretty much more of the same. We have tomato in this one, and another pot of sweet potatoes, also with a couple weeds. This was the small geodome that I built as a test. I tried one method of attaching the plastic and discovered one way that doesn't work. And this is kind of the model if I build a bigger greenhouse that I'm going to follow. And so I might be able to get away with only doing clear on 5 faces and reflective on the rest to get the light. Did a slightly different method of attaching it here and holds up a lot better. And as you can see, this one folded over. We use this kind of as a cold frame to harden off plants. There's still a couple in there, and so far we've been using it for storage for all the containers. These are all Keats. They're baby guineas. They all hatched between yesterday and today. This is the second chicken tractor. A little different configuration. The other one was 8x8. I thought it was going to fit through because I had an 8-foot gate plus the hinges and all that. It turned out to be not an 8-foot gate, so it was a whole lot of fun getting in. This one is 6 foot by 10 foot, so it fits through that gate over there. It has the same wheel mounts as the other one, so I just kind of put it on a high mode and took it from there. This one has an integral feeder that I can feed from the outside. Both ends have a hinged roof where the other one just had a door. I use the white plastic to help keep it cool, reflects a lot. I haven't added the tongue for the mover yet, so I just have these handles I lifted up and just kind of slide it along. The first 2 times I moved this one, I lifted it too high and had a bird get out. So I have my chicken net to make sure that I can catch them. This one just has a regular fountain waterer. It's all 1x4s, except for the corner posts, which are roughly 5 inches square. They were some excess lumber I had from pallets. The chickens that I have in here are some that I've hatched from my own. I bred the Buff Orpington with a Buff Orpington, an Australorp, and an Easter Egger. And so some of them bred true, some of them are a hybrid between the two. So far it seems as though I have an unusually high amount of females. And they'll pick around. I just moved this yesterday. Chickens don't like excessively tall grass, so I mowed through this area first with my lawn tractor on the highest setting. And they'll pick this area pretty good. They have their food, they have their water. 4 of them in here are from one batch, the other 7 are from the second. And from what I can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of the 11 are female, which is really backwards. Most of the time it's either 50-50 or heavy on the male side.